وآله الطيبين الطاهرين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فأوصيكم بتقوى الله فإنه حبل متين وعروة وثقى. صلوات. Dear brothers and sisters in Iman, first of all I advise myself for taqwa, parhezgari and piety, and then I advise all of you for the same. In these khutbas of Jumma, in this month of Muharram and Safar, or in these months of Muharram and Safar, we are trying to understand the incident of Karbala, and particularly about some details of Karbala in order. In general, we have a general understanding or somewhat understanding of the entire this incident, but very brief and without any details. Those details are also important to understand in the context. So I had so far 2 discussions and today I have third. It will take about 2 or 3 more discussions to eventually conclude this topic. We mentioned last time, and I'm saying it again, that those who didn't listen this or who were not able to note it, so at least they can take a note of that Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam had left Medina on 28th of Rajab, the 60th year of Hijrah. It was year 60 and it was 28th of Rajab. On 3rd of Shaban, which was by the way his birthday, he arrived in Makkah. So it took him around 5 days to arrive in Makkah. Then he remained in Makkah until the 8th of Dhul Hijjah. Actually on 8th of Dhul Hijjah, then he left Makkah for Iraq. From 3rd of Shaban until the 7th of Dhul Hijjah, Imam alayhi salatu wasalam remained in Makkah, and he had opportunity to meet and talk with all those people who were coming from different areas of Muslim world, and they were coming for Umrah and Hajj. Of course, these were the people that who were supposed to be the pious people and concerned people and well-to-do people, people with resources, people with some conscience. They were supposed to come for Hajj and Umrah, and Imam alayhi salatu wassalam tried to reach them, if not to all, at least to most of them. Many people visited Imam where he was staying on daily basis or on weekly basis to follow up what was going on with Imam, what are his plans, what he is up to. And Imam alayhi salatu wasalam was speaking with them, talking to them. There was some activity going on, which again is now belongs to too many details. I will not get into those details. You remember that Imam alayhi salatu wasalam had sent his representative Muslim bin Aqil to Kufa to verify those letters and those pledges which people of Kufa were making to Imam, and they were inviting Imam that we don't have an Imam and we are not here, we will not take the governor from Yazid, so please you come and join us here in Kufa and lead us and guide us. Imam had sent Muslim bin Aqil to verify. Muslim bin Aqil went there. Most of these people, they came forward, they pledged their support, they made bay'at on the hand of Muslim bin Aqil for Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam. Numbers are different, but up to 18 or 25,000 people in Kufa, they pledged their support to Imam Hussain via Muslim bin Aqil. So when almost the entire Kufa came forward and pledged their support, Muslim bin Aqil wrote a letter to Imam that yes, people of Kufa are pledging their support. They came and they did bayat on my hand, and I verify that those letters and those pledges were right. And when you receive this letter, so please move to Iraq and come to Kufa. Imam alayhi salatu wasalam had received this letter of Muslim bin Aqil, and Hajj was now too close. Looks like that Imam kept that answer of Muslim bin Aqil in his hand and was planning to complete his Hajj and then go to Iraq. But a news changed the whole scenario. A news came to Imam alayhi salatu wassalam that the government has sent a number of soldiers in disguise of Hajis, and they are here to arrest you. They will arrest you either in Masjidul Haram or in Arafat or Mina somewhere, and they will take you by force to Syria in the court of Yazid to forcefully make you to do the bay'at, or they might kill you if you will resist from arrest in this Masjidul Haram or Mina or Arafat or wherever. When this news came to Imam, Imam now changes plan, and he doesn't want to become the source or cause of bloodshed in Haram. So, on 8th of Dhul Hijjah, Imam alayhi salatu wasalam leaves Makkah for Iraq when other Hajis are leaving Makkah for Arafat. So it was a big news. Everyone is going to Arafat and Mina, and the son of Arafat and Mina is leaving for Iraq, and he is not even completing his Hajj. So when news came out, some seniors in community, they approached Imam, and they came and they advised him, first of all, not to go to Iraq at all, or at least wait, this is the safe place to stay here. Makkah is al-Baladul Amin, you are safer here than you will be in Iraq. Some different people made different advices, but Imam alayhi salatu wasalam knew what was best for him and what was his duty. So Imam alayhi salatu wasalam left on 8th of Zulhijjah, this land of Makkah, and he started his journey for Iraq. Coincidentally, this is the same day, 8th of Zulhijjah, while he is leaving Makkah for Kufa, and in Kufa, the Kufa had become a battlefield between Muslim bin Aqil and Ibn Ziyad. This was the same day, 8th of Dhul Hijjah, when there are no military clashes between Muslim bin Aqil and his supporters and between the supporters of Ibn Ziyad. So Imam is leaving from Makkah on 8th of Dhul Hijjah, and there is now the fight broke between Muslim bin Aqil and Ibn Ziyad on the same day, 8th of Zulhijjah. Imam alayhi salatu wassalam is headed now toward Kufa. In the books of our history, scholars have a lot of disagreement that in how many stages or after how many stops Imam alayhi salatu wassalam finally arrived in Karbala. Those places where Imam stopped, their names are mentioned sometime differently. In one maqtal, in one book of history, there is a name mentioned, but then in other book, the name is mentioned in a different way. And it's quite possible because in those times, many of these places had couple of names or several names. So one place was referred by one name by some people, and the same place was referred by some other people with another name. So it's a possible that both names, both one or two or three names are referring to the same place. But also, how many these manazil, how many stops that Imam had from the beginning of his journey until finally coming down in Karbala. As I said, scholars have disagreements, but according to someone that I know that he is a researcher and he had all these resources in front of him, a very capable scholar that who have looked into all these things, he believes that altogether these were 16 stops. These were the 16 stops beginning with Makkah and ending in Karbala. But again, some people said these were 18, some people said 20, some 24, some less than 16. That's not a big deal. Now, Imam alayhi salatu wassalam started his journey from Makkah on 8th of Dhul Hijjah, and keeping the time in mind, I will not mention the names of all those places, and I will not be able to mention again all those details I will not be able to mention all those incidents or conversations or activities which took place at certain places, except 2 or 3. It was his 6th stop at the place called Tha'labiyya. There is a place called Tha'labiyya, and Imam had stopped there, and this was apparently his 6th stop on the journey, where he received the news of Shahadat of Muslim bin Aqil and Hani bin Urwa. Now, there is again lot of detail I have mentioned in my majalis sometime when I address the majlis of Shahadat of Muslim bin Aqil. I have mentioned all those details. It's a long story, but one liner is that Imam alayhi salatu wassalam this was his way, that during his journey, anyone who was coming from this side of Kufa, from Kufa side, Imam would ask his companions to approach them and ask them about what's going on in Kufa. So what are the news? In those days we didn't have emails, there was no X, there was no WhatsApp, there was no media, no radio, no TV, no newspapers. So you would rely only on those passengers, travelers who were coming from that area. So you would ask them, do you have any news or anything when you left Kufa? So what were the news? So there were two fellows from Bani Asad. And since they had this bad news, they avoided actually to meet Imam Hussain or his people and to break this news to them. But Imam ﷺ sent his people to go and follow them and talk to them and ask them if they have any news from Kufa. So they said, we didn't want to be those people to bring this bad news to Imam Hussain, but if you insist and if you ask us, the news is that when we left Kufa, Muslim bin Aqil, Hani bin Urwa, both of them were martyred, and they were dragging them in the streets of Kufa. Their dead bodies, their bodies were being dragged in the streets of Kufa. That's what we saw. So these friends of Imam, they came and they broke this news to Imam. This was a devastating news. For Imam, this was a devastating news for his camp, for his tent, for his people. Imam alayhi salatu wasalam said, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. And then those two people from Bani Asad, they came and they insisted that Imam should now cancel his plan for going to Kufa. And there is no point for going to Kufa anymore. And Imam should now just forget about it. It was a very emotional situation, very difficult situation. Imam didn't want to announce his decision just up front right away. He wanted to hear people, he wanted to see how his friends, his people, they feel about it, and let everyone make their suggestion, their comments, what they want to see, what they want to suggest. And then of course Imam knows what he has to do. So different people stood up and they expressed their emotions or their positions, and they insisted that we should not cancel our plans for going to Iraq. We should continue going to Kufa and take meaning this mission as we had all along so far. So when everybody expressed themselves and they stood up and they spoke about that, Imam turned to those two people of Banu Asad and he said, you have heard them. So when everyone wants to go to Kufa, and these are all my friends, these are all my fellows, these are all my family, and everyone is all together, so seems that this is the right course to do. And so Imam alayhi salatu wasalam made the plan that we will continue going to Iraq and we are not going to change our direction. Recite salawat. It was his 10th stop, at a place called Shiraf or Sharaf. When Imam was leaving that 10th place, 10th stop, he was leaving now. Normally they would travel during the day, early morning they would start their travel and they will end their travel by the evening. They would spend their night there and then next day again they will start. So from this place called Shiraf, when Imam was leaving, Imam asked everyone to take some extra water with them. Situation is changing every day. So Imam asked them that when you are taking water with you, so take some extra water. And they started their journey in the morning. It was around a little before Zohar, just noon time, little before Zohar, that one of these companions of Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam chanted a takbir. And all of a sudden someone said, Allahu Akbar. So of course everybody looked to him and asked him, why did you say takbir? So at this time, so there might be something, a reason. So he said, I never knew that there are these palm trees, meaning those dates, the trees of dates in this area, but I see there are some trees of those dates, and first time I'm seeing. So it was meaning a good thing for people that we will go there, we will have some shade, we can have some dates, and we will just maybe stop for a little while. This was the time of noon. Other people said, we have traveled on this path and in these areas, and we never came across with those palm trees or with those trees of dates. How come? So they were kind of now looking and trying to find out and discussing with one another, and meaning debating that what are those. Imam alayhi salatu wasalam, when he realized that this is what is going on, Imam goes forward and he looks and he says, no, those are not the palm trees, those are not those trees of dates. Basically what I am seeing, those are the horses. You are seeing those what you call the ears of horses and the necks of horses, and this is actually an army, soldiers riding on the horses, and they are coming. So Imam quickly asked his people that I feel that army is approaching to us. Before they arrive here, we need to find a suitable place where we come down. And when they were looking for suitable place, basically they mean a place where they can have a hill or a mountain or a elevated kind of place on their back, and to have a few people standing on side to protect them at least from the back, and then put their tents in front of it. Someone pointed out that Mawla, there is a small mountain, and if we reach there before them, then that would be a very suitable place. This place was called Dhu Husm. So Imam alayhi salatu wasalam with his companions rushed to arrive to that mountain which was close by, Dhu Husm, and they went there, and then quickly they came down and they started putting their tents in front of that mountain, and a few people went on the mountain to stand up to see that they don't come from the back. Soon an army of 1,000 soldiers under the leadership of Hur arrived there. When they saw these people have put their tents there and now they are just on the ground, so they also, on a little distance in front of them, they also put their tents. They came down and they put their tents. And after putting these tents on both sides, now they just had a very brief kind of conversation with one another, but not much. Just to, who are you, why are you here, something like that. Very basic kind of conversation, because the time of Zohr was coming in and everybody was now getting ready for the Zohr prayer. Imam alayhi salatu wasalam, as they write in the Maqtal, that he came out from his tent with the libas of prayer. Libas of the prayer, maybe it means that when our Ahlul Bayt, of course Ahlul Bayt, even our ulama and our mutadayyineen, our ancestors, when they had a special kind of libas which they would use to wear when they would come to Musalla Ibadat or when they would come to pray. Imama with Tahtul Hanak and the Abba and with that kind of thing. So Imam came out from his tent at the time of Dhuhr. He asked his muaddin to call adhan for Zohr. He called adhan for Zohr. Then Imam looked to her and Imam asked them that you guys would pray with us, your Zohr prayer, or you will do your own. And the response of her was that no, we will pray just with you. We will pray behind you. You start the Zohr and we are ready and we will join you. So Imam alayhi salatu wasalam did his Zohr prayer. Everyone prayed together. Those companions of Imam Hussain and those soldiers with her. When Imam finished Zohr prayer, Imam stood up and now Imam gave a khutbah. And he spoke to her and his soldiers and everyone. After praising Allah and sending salatu salam to the Prophet and his all and Ahlul Bayt, Imam said, you people of Kufa had written letters to me, sent their representatives, invited me that we don't have Imam, come and guide us. So that's why I am coming here. That's why I am here. Or you were asking why you are coming and why you are here. So this is the reason why I came. He spoke back and he said, I don't know about any of those letters or any of those representatives. I am unaware of these invitation letters. I don't know what you are talking about. Imam asked his slave to bring all those piles of letters and put in front of him. So this slave of Imam, he brought all those letters, the piles of letters, those big bags full with letters, and put in front of her. Her looked at those letters and he said, we are not those who have written these letters. We are different groups of people, different group of people. We never wrote these letters. We are not the one that who signed these letters or sent you these letters. We are here, we are sent by our Amir from Kufa to ask you to either make bay'at of Yazid or we have to arrest you. That's why we are here. We don't know anything else. Imam alayhi salatu wasalam responded, there is a little argument between Imam and her, a little bit, and then it ended. Imam went back to his tent, her went back to his tent, and soldiers were also in their own place on both sides. Until comes the time of Asr prayer. When the time of Asr prayer comes, Imam again comes out from the tent to pray the Asr prayer. Azan was called, Salatul Asr was performed, and this incident itself is an evidence that in those times it was not a custom of Ahlul Bayt or our Imams to necessarily combine every day and every time this Zohr and Asr or Maghrib or Isha. So it's written in all those books that Imam did Zohr, this whole thing, gave khutbah, went back to the tent. At the time of Asr, Imam again comes back Now they are doing Asr. After Asr, Imam alayhi salatu wasalam again offered a brief khutbah, and then Imam asked his people to pack up, get ready, and we should now get going. So they packed up their tents, they rode their horses. Imam alayhi salatu wasalam also rode their horse, and now when they want to move toward Kufa, so this Hur comes and he puts his hands in the reins of the horse of Imam, and he says, no, I am not going to let you go like this. I have to arrest you, and then you will be going with me to Kufa, but after I arrest you. Imam said, no, you cannot arrest me. That is on my dead body. Historians have mentioned here that Imam alayhi salatu wasalam also at this time, when he saw this whole situation, so he wanted to change the direction. So change the direction, we don't know which direction was that, but Imam wanted to maybe change his direction a little bit in front of Hur and in front of his army, and then maybe make his decision where he wants to go. Still wants to go to Kufa, or he wants to go to somewhere else. But they said, no, we are not going to allow you to go like this. Either you make bayat and surrender yourself, or we will arrest you. At that time there is some argument between Imam and Hur, and Imam alayhi salatu wasalam, that known sentence which we always hear, that your mother sits in your matam, leave my horse. And Hur said that if anyone in Arab would bring the name of my mother on his tongue and he would say me this sentence, I would call the name of his mother and I would respond to him in the same way. But unfortunately, I cannot bring the name of your mother on my tongue. I have respect for your mother. I cannot respond to you in the same way. Finally, Hur came up with a proposal. He said, I am not given the commands to fight you. The command what I am given is to arrest you. Now, let's make a deal. You don't go to Kufa in this way without making bay'at or without being arrested, and you don't go back to Medina or to Mecca or to Hijaz. You take a third route which is going nowhere. You are not going to Medina or Mecca, and you are also not going to Kufa. You take a third route which goes nowhere. You start walking, and I am also going to walk with you. We will go with you. I send my servant to report to Amir Ibn Ziyad in Kufa and tell him the situation, and then I will wait for his new directives. Imam said, yeah, that's fine. If you want me to do that, that's fine. So now Imam started moving to a third direction, and it was not going to Kufa, it was not going back to Medina or Mecca, a third direction. And this is how Imam continued his journey. They would walk from morning until evening, then they would stop, and then in the next day again they would start. So this is how they were going, and finally it was the 15th stop of Imam, which was at the place called Nainawa. At Nainawa, that was the 15th stop. When they were at Nainawa, everyone saw an armed soldier coming from Kufa. He approached to the Hur and his army, and he said salam to them, but he didn't say salam to Imam Hussein or his people. That was a sign of hostility. Then he gave the letter to Ibn Ziyad, and Ibn Ziyad had written to Hur that when you receive this letter, so bring Hussein down and ask him that either he has to make bayat, get this bayat from him, or arrest him or kill him if he is not ready to arrest, but nothing else. So Hur came and he said, no, this is the letter. I have received the new directives. I cannot allow you to move on from here. You have to now come down. Imam said, let's move a little further, little ahead, and find a suitable place to come down. They said, no, the orders are that I should just stop you here. So they say Imam was able to move a very little distance from Nineveh, not much. But then Hur with his all army came and stood in front of Imam and his people and said, not an inch anymore. Just you need to come down here. We have the directives. We have to bring you down. Imam says, what is the name of this place? They said the name of this place is Karbala. When they said the name of this place is Karbala, Imam said, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. This is exactly the place that my grandfather had told me about. I believe we have reached to our destiny. We have reached to that place. So he asked everyone to come down and put your tents here. This is the place which we had been told and promised, and here we will be now landing, and here everything will come to us. And then there are some things which Imam said. So this is how Imam alayhi salatu wasalam ended up as his 16th stop from Makkah to the place called Karbala, when Hur had stopped him that you cannot go any further. It was Thursday, and it was 2nd of Muharram, 61st year of Hijrah, 2nd of Muharram, Thursday, when Imam alayhi salatu wasalam ended up landing in Karbala. I'm sorry it took more time than what I had anticipated, but I think at least some of these things were important to share with you, and keep those things in mind. We will inshallah continue in the following khutbah. Recite a salawat. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحليم الكريم غافر الذنب وقابل التوب وهو الغفور الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين علي بن أبي طالب وعلى سيدة نساء العالمين فاطمة الزهراء اللهم صل وعلى الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة وعلى علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي. اللهم صل على مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان وعلى آبائه الكرام ما اتصل الليالي والأيام. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون.